it's comfortable.
No, I prefer standing. Professor also, no. Swamiji, aapko pranam. I'm very thankful for this opportunity to address you along with Swamiji for the issue of corruption. And there are some major key points that I want to cover. After that we can have questions. First, I'd like to say about temples. Nearly 400,000 temples are under government control. This control comes from the power vested in the government under the Constitution, under Articles 25 and 26, which empowers the government to take over the financial management of a temple if there is substantive proof that the temple funds are being mismanaged. And since this is a matter on which much of the society did not pay attention, so the governments in the state level particularly have been taking over temples on very flimsy grounds. I was approached by one such temple which was taken over by Mr. Karunanidhi, more as a spite and anger because he lost the Ram Setu litigation. Because that was his something he was very attached to. There was a lot of money also to be made in that. Since he made it an issue that in fact he told the Muslim community that they Hindus broke Babri Masjid and I'll break Ram Setu for you. That is the extent to which he went. So, unfortunately for him, in the court, he lost the battle and I was on the other side. I was the main petitioner. And then one day he got a notice issued by the HRNC department that the Savanagar temple, which is popularly known as the Chidambaram temple, he got an order issued that they would be taken over. The pujaris had gone to the High Court by themselves through a paid lawyer, and unfortunately they lost both at the single judge level and in the division bench level. And then I think both Swami Dayanand Saraswati and Jayendra Saraswati told them that they should come to me. So they came to me and I filed a petition in the Supreme Court, and in which immediately I got a stay in the operation of the executive officer. And so it's now status quo. And the final hearing will come up in 26th August when we will decide whether the order of the government was valid in law or not. But in the meantime, because Swamiji was doing a Padyatra and it was culminating in Tirupati, I went to address that meeting, which was a very large turnout of people. And in that meeting, the question of what happened in Andhra Pradesh and subsequently meeting Rajashekar Reddy, etc., all that, and thought came to my mind, why should government keep all these temples in their hands? Even assuming that they can take over for mismanagement, they should clear up the mismanagement and then return it back. But for 70 years, 80 years, the government has been keeping these temples. Tirupati was taken over in 1933. And now it turns out that Tirupati, despite the huge amount of money that people put in, ordinary public puts in, rich people put in the hundi and other ways of donating, it's not, the total assets is not more than $7-8 billion. Whereas this Padmanabha temple, which only the king or the royal family, they used to make the donation. People were not allowed to make any donation. And they made every year this donation. And it is $22 million. Which means Tirupati money must have been stolen all this time from 1933. Otherwise Tirupati should be $100 billion if Padmanabha temple is $22 billion. So I put in a new clause because most people don't read the Constitution, but since I'm a professor, I read the Constitution. I read found Article 31, bracket 1, bracket D, B. It says that government may take over any property, but it cannot be challenged, that takeover, unless it is on a permanent basis. If the government takes over a property from the private hands without paying any compensation and things like that, you can take over permanently if you pay compensation. But if you take over the property for some reason, you cannot keep it permanently. So I filed an additional prayer in this Chidambaram temple matter that all temples taken over government which are more than 3 years old should be returned back to the original trustees. I suppose Tirupati will have to go to Hathiram Trust. Suddenly become a very rich trust. So, but I think because Swami Dayananda Saraswati has created this the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, of which I am the convener of the legal cell, we think that if there are no trustees there and so many years have gone by, then they could be given to the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha to see that such things don't happen. In the meantime, of course, you see, there are newer and newer ways of making money. The chairman of the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam board, Mr. Adhikar Savadu, he came up with a scheme that he will gold plate everything. And he said he will gold plate the walls. Now first the Agama Shastris, they took objection saying that they consider there are so many carvings on the wall and there are so many epigraphs saying how Naivedyam should be and how Prasad should be prepared, how Laddu should be prepared. All is there on the walls of Tirupati. You can't cover it up. So Adi Kesavalu said, no, then I have taken a CD of all the walls and I'll put that in the museum. Of course in court I said he can also do for the morning Suprabhatam, he can also put it in CD. Why should anybody go to Tirupati at all? Then I discovered that in order to gold plate, he was going to put it on board and then hang it on the walls. And for hanging it, he was going to drill 10,000 holes into the walls. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And so finally I went to the Andhra Pradesh High Court and we got a order quashing that decision. It was a racket to make money. It was nothing more than that. And unfortunately the Ambanis were also associated with it. And then they went and appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court also made it very clear that under no circumstances they can proceed ahead ever again for gold plating without first coming to the Supreme Court and asking for permission, in which my opinion will be taken. So anyway, for Tirupati, but I think now time has come for us to start a movement, which is what Swamiji has been doing, that all temples must be taken away from government control after 3 years. At this moment I cannot say that government cannot take over. I asked, why can't you take over a masjid or a church? The Supreme Court has said in one judgment, Who's stopping you? Let the government take over. We are not objecting. But the government doesn't want to take over. Even the BJP government didn't want to take it over. Because they are organized. Muslims and Christians are organized. Our problem is that the Hindus are not organized. And we are like, either like those 1,000 goats which see one tiger and run away, even though the majority is with the goats, and the tiger is in a minority of one, but still they run away. Or like the lions in a circus, where each lion can kill the ringmaster, but they obey him. He tells them to climb up and go up the stairs, they do all kinds of things. So our mindset is what is at fault. But looting has gone on, as Swamiji just said. The corruption of looting temple valuables, etc., has been going on for a long time. And this is really shocking. It's not only Muhammad Ghori and Ghazni, but people with names like Ram and Lakshman, they also looting it. Or Raja, Rani, Indian, foreign Ranis. And I would such, and I tell you that Padmanabha temple matter is also because the refusal of the ruling party, the ruling family of the temple, who did not want to share the loot. And our temple antiques are all going abroad. They're being smuggled abroad. They are being sold in Sotheby's and so on. So it's a very big subject, but I thought because Swamiji is here and I've had the pleasure of participating in his programs, that I should make it clear that this is not going to be left unchallenged. We will see that all temples become liberated.
Before we switch the gears to the next major topic what Dr. Swami is going to address us, now here we have Satya Dosapati has a small presentation to give you an idea about the magnitude of the corruption problem that we are all going to face and how we can be part of it. Please have a seat for a few minutes. And Satya Garu.
First of all, I'd like to begin by saying that the accounts of India by foreigners up to about 1750 describe India, the people of India, as the most honest people in the world. Mark Twain, who came much later, he also said that he was amazed to see that Indians don't lock their houses. The Chinese travelers who came, Buddhists like Fasian and Yuan Chuang, they also went into raptures about not only about the wealth of India, the progress of India, etc., but they also say that these are very truthful, honest people. Because today we are, all of us, when we sit privately, we say we Indians are all corrupt, everybody is corrupt, nobody is, all politicians are corrupt, all doctors are corrupt, all lawyers are corrupt, all NRIs are corrupt. No! And there's kind of despondency. And I would like to see that despondency go. I saw that despondency when I took up this 2G case. Everybody told me that nothing will come out of it. Raja himself, whom I know personally, told me in the Hall of Parliament, Central Hall of Parliament, that in Tamil he told me, why you're wasting time? I've paid everybody who's of any consequence and I'm protected. Nothing can happen to me. So, this is the kind of atmosphere which facilitates corruption. So the first thing that must come in all of us is that we will say corruption must go and something must be done and support anything that is being done. How that can be done by those of you living abroad, I'll come to towards the end of my talk. So second thing I would like to say is that the corruption that needs to be first tackled is the misuse of public office for altering a decision from the meritorious or the optimal decision to something which is substandard or suboptimal because somebody paid you money. The key thing is that is where the main problem arises. Unfortunately, in our country, once you start talking about corruption, we talk about practically everything. Digvijay Singh said, what is Ramdev? He accepts black money. Now that is not corruption. Ramdev gets money not by promising anything. He has not made a deal, there is no quid pro quo. How is he going to know it's black money? I mean, if somebody gives in cash, there is no bar legally to somebody receiving a payment in cash unilaterally, one way. That is, if I were to sell some goods, then accepting cash is against the sales tax law and income tax law. But if somebody gives a donation in cash, that's not corruption. And a simple thing is not there. Supposing I go travel in a taxi, I have black money in my pocket, and I give the taxi driver the fare in cash. That doesn't make him corrupt because he's accepted black money. So please be sure that the focus has to be for the misuse of public office for either benefiting and enriching yourself or somebody else. So that is the corruption that we are talking about, and all these big lists that Satya has put out. They're all where the public office has been misused. Public office is a trust, and it's a betrayal of that trust. So that's how I must begin by saying that yes, maybe I can say dowry is a corruption. That you get married and you refuse to marry unless a motor car is given and a refrigerator is given. That's a form of corruption. You can say you can widen it. But the country today is suffering. The dimensions of economic system are suffering because of this. Second thing I would like to say is that, in this regard, is that the impact of corruption is not that some corrupt person or some criminal has given cash to a minister and the minister has become rich and a bad decision is taken. It has multivarious effects and it is ultimately weakening your country. What are those dimensions of corruption? First and foremost is that corruption, of course, suboptimizes the decision and therefore the country's resources do not get the rate of return that they should by choosing the best project. If I have put out a tender for a road construction, and I tell the man that I will give you this tender, provided you give me so many crores of rupees for this project, he will say, I'm not going to even earn lakhs. Where am I going to get this? Going to get these crores? So what does he do ultimately to get the tender? He then, in the tender, he says that the tender is said that the quality of the road should be such, the quality of the bitumen used should be so and all that. He does not carry out that. He then puts substandard material. So one rainfall, the road is finished. Whereas we build very good roads in India. Indians can build very good roads. We build them abroad, of course. We build them in Malaysia. We build them in Nigeria. In fact, George Bush complimented Saddam Hussein saying that, well, whatever else I may say, but the road from Basra to Baghdad, where the American tanks went with great speed, was so good. He said, at least build good roads. But I found out it is not Saddam who built it, but he gave the contract to India, and we had built that road from Basra to Baghdad. So we are doing extremely well where the performance is based on merit. And therefore, this is the way where our substandard products affect us by this corruption, adulteration. They put all kinds of very harmful material into these are the areas by which the country suffers. Second, when the corruption takes place, money changes hands, and it changes hands in cash. It can't be in check, because check can be traced. So that cash, where does it go? Part of it goes abroad. So I'll talk about that next. But first I will talk about the part that remains in India. What is it used for? It is primarily used for three things. I mean, in a harmful way. First and foremost, people, when they get a whole lot of cash, and now it's, the numbers are mind-boggling. In fact, this telecom scam, the first question somebody asked me is, how many zeros does it have? The Supreme Court judge. And I counted it and said 11 zeros are there. And certainly, this is something which is mind-boggling, this kind of thing. But it's not the only scam that is running into billions of dollars. It's many other. There's a coal scam. There is now a gas scam. And there are so many other scams which are there. And we therefore must know that these large amounts, they are huge. And this huge amount, some of it is used to put air conditioners in every room. Even in the bathroom, they are now putting air conditioners. They got that kind of money. You buy 5-6 cars, so on. And you build a palatial house. You go off to Switzerland for trips. Summer vacations. You go to 5-star hotels for dinners regularly. What happens is that these luxury goods, they come in great demand. And when they come in great demand, these industries, the rate of return on the investment in these industries starts going up. The profit rates start going up. So the investors, what they do, they say, why should I produce cloth? Why should I produce common man's goods? Why should I invest in agriculture? Let me put it in luxury goods. And that's distorts your investment priority. In a country like ours with so many poor people, the investment should be largely in favor of those services, public services, things like that, which the public needs. But it goes in for what the elite or the top 10% need. I have estimated by using what is called as input-output analysis in economics to show that the Indian economy, 70% of the investment goes directly or indirectly to sustain luxury consumption in our country. That's a huge number. It's a huge investment priority distortion. So this is that. Then this money is used for forward trading in agricultural commodities. To the market, before they reach the market, they are purchased in bulk and put in the storage. And this is, you can call this as hoarding. Same thing with the vegetables, fruits, sugar, cotton, so on, so many other things. So there is shortages created in the market, and therefore inflation takes place. So in our country, we find our growth rate is claimed to be 9% per year in GDP, but our inflation rate is 16%. And people are daily complaining. When it rises great heights, then they open the godowns and the commodities come, and they made a cool profit on that. So this is another way. Then there is a question of the money part of the money being taken abroad. I would say about 1/3 of the total black money generated in India goes abroad. Estimates vary. Just now the chart showed $1.4 trillion. There are more conservative estimates which place it at $500 billion, but even $500 billion is a very large amount of money. And they are abroad in Switzerland, in Liechtenstein, in Cayman Island, in Macau, in China. There are about 77 safe havens in the world. And these 77 safe havens, you can put the money. Nowadays you don't even have to travel out because you can sit in your home and get a Hawala operator to put the money abroad to a friend who can then through online banking or go to the bank and go to the automated machines and open your account. So therefore, this money that is yours, which should be used for investment in your country, is going abroad. But worse things are happening with this. And for this the credit must go to Mr. Chidambaram, whom I am expecting will be in jail by the end of August. I'll tell you the reason also why I'm so certain. But the fact is that, you see, when he was minister, he created a new financial derivative. Those of you who don't know derivative, doesn't matter. But he created a financial derivative called participatory note. PNs, yeah. Now, what is this PNs? Yesterday, in fact, in Boston, about 7-8 investment banking companies and private equity companies, they wanted a briefing session with me. And so I had a 5-hour briefing session with them. One of them was Fidelity Insurance, Fidelity Investments. And the other was Morgan Stanley. So now, if I have a lot of cash, and that cash is then sent through the Hawala abroad, and I put it in the Switzerland bank, many politicians who are doing this had a complaint. The complaint was that if you put money in Switzerland banks, then instead of their giving you interest, you have to pay them a service charge. So there was a little feeling of being let down. I mean, we after so much effort, we put money in the bank there, and we have to pay a service charge. So he came up with this instrument, or participatory note, which is only there in India and nowhere else in the world. Only in India. So when you have got your cash in abroad, you take the cash in a sack or a suitcase or whatever, go to Fidelity Investments or go to Morgan Stanley and put it on the counter and say, give me a participatory note. And they will give you a participatory note, which is only valid in India, which will have nothing but the amount you have given on the counter. So you take that one participatory note, say you take it for, say, $100 million. You come to India and you go to the stock market and you invest it. Normally, if you took money and went to the stock market, the SEBI will ask you, where did you get this money? So Chidambaram changed the law that as far as participatory note is concerned, it will be exempt from any SEBI oversight. So he freed them from any oversight of this. So this participatory note, you then invest in the stock market. It's almost like cash now. And the stock market, when it's a large amount of money comes in, the stock market booms up, and then you sell it. And once you sell it, you make this huge killing. You take the killing with the participatory note photocopy, and you go to the Reserve Bank and say, now convert all these rupees that I've got in the Bombay Stock Exchange into dollars. There also the law has been changed, saying that this Reserve Bank must fully convert. Normally rupee is not convertible, but for participatory note and the profit from it, you can convert. You have to convert. The Reserve Bank has to convert to dollars, and then you can take the dollars abroad. So, and therefore you can earn. Now, question is, what about capital gains tax? Every one of us has to pay 25% capital gains. To avoid paying capital gains tax, a new law was made, and that was that if you create a $1 company in Mauritius, $1 paid up capital company, and that company comes and invests in the stock market, that because it is from Mauritius, there is no capital gains tax. And as a consequence, today, the largest investor of foreign money in our country is Mauritius, which has nothing but beaches and gambling casinos and so on. How can it be investing more than United States and Europe and so on? But that's because all this money is going out, and then via Mauritius, it comes back to India, and then they rig the market. It is a rigging of the market. And that is why we have this stock market going up and down. You can make it now at will. The Indian stock market, the middle class loses, but the rich people earn in a big way. So their stock market is gone. then the cash is used to buy real estate property. So real estate is booming. You don't need the Indian banks to give you loans like here, people got loans to buy property. You don't need that in India. You got cash. And that cash is used and the property price is going up. Now you can't buy a flat in Bombay for less than 25 lakhs. You see, a small flat. So it has now gone beyond the reach of even the middle class. Because, so you see, they look at the amount of distortions that have taken place. And then this corruption, once it becomes a habit, then you can do anything. So Chidambaram, as finance minister, he said that India cannot produce high quality currency paper with a proper watermark and all. But England, there is a company called De La Rue, which prints that. So we buy from them, so that we can have high quality, like the 1,000 rupee note you see, has a very high quality paper. And this has been bought from De La Rue. Now the Indian Intelligence Bureau objected, saying that, you see, this De La Rue also gives prints currency paper for Pakistan. So if you buy from the same company, then, Pakistan can use that watermark and all that. They can, after all, these people in England, they don't owe you anything, they are businessmen. The Pakistanis will buy. All the Pakistani ISI printed counterfeit notes today, which are becoming very difficult to detect, which come to India via Nepal, they are because De La Rue sells them this currency paper. And Mr. Chidambaram has just frankly refused to do anything about it, because there must have been a deal in that. The CBI then, not knowing what is going on, they had got a tip-off and they went and raided Reserve Bank offices. But that case is now in cold storage. When I get little time from 2G, I will take up that case. Now finally, national security is also being seriously compromised. You see, if money can buy everything, then foreigners will also buy you. If they can't defeat you in the battlefield because of the valor of your soldiers, they can at least buy you out. They can buy your leaders off. This is I found for the first time. This is why I took it up first. When I came to learn that what had happened is that Raja had come to a decision, and I found that he didn't alone take the decision. Raja has at least announced the decision that spectrum licenses will be sold at the price it was sold in 2001. In 2008. In 2001, the country was having only 4 crore or 40 million mobile phones. Today, India has, the purchases of mobile phones now total 700 million, 70 crores. Such a big demand growth has taken place, and the sector has become extremely profitable. So, if you went by the market price, since 2G, was not auctioned, but sold at 2001 price, 3G was sold at auction price. Auction price shows that the ratio between 2001 price for spectrum and 2008 is 10 times. 10 times. And if you want to know the detail, the exact prices, etc., I have a book out which has been published a few weeks ago called 2G Spectrum Scam. And Mr. Guru is sitting here, and he will be, he will be able to tell you how to order it. I think there's Flipkart.com also. I can send it to you directly online. But anyway, I've given all the details in that. Now, what is this 2G and what is this 3G and all? People sometimes gets confused, you see. Somebody asked Manmohan Singh, do you know what 2G is? I'm sure you know all of it. Yeah. He said Sonia G and Rahul G. These are the 2Gs. Well, if I can grossly simplify it, it is like this, that when I pick up a cordless phone and I speak on it, my voice goes and nothing else. And there the voice travels in a cycle. That is 1G. That is G for generation. So it's the first generation. Then second generation, emails, SMS, MMS, those cycles travel, voice travels in a more frequent, there are more frequencies, higher frequency sound waves, and that is 2G. Then if you want your video, so I'm speaking to you, I want to see you, and you want to see me, that is 3G. So the higher the number of frequencies, the more is the data you can send and that's the distinction. Now, when Raja sold this 2G for 1/10 the price, he so arranged it that two companies in particular will be the first and second to get it. He first said everyone can apply and all will get. That was a recommendation of the regulator, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI as it's briefed. They said, no cap should be there. Everybody should get. And the price should be so fixed that only those who can afford those prices will get the license. So the question of supply must adjust to the demand. But Raja then decided, after first saying that everybody can apply, then he said, no, everyone who applies before 1st October 2007, they will be considered. And when did he announce this? He announced this on 25th September. Only 5 days left. So people who are planning to do it after Diwali and all, they had to rush, and they filed. And even then 575 applications came. So 25th September cutoff date, 25th September he announces that 1st October is the cutoff date. After 2 months, on January 10th, he issues a press release in his ministry's website, not in newspapers and all that effective today, that is 10th of January, he issues this press release when? 2:45 p.m. He says, 2:45 p.m. he issues a press release that effective today between 3:30 and 4:30, all those 575 people who applied will not qualify, but only those who applied before 25th September. First condition. Even then it turned out to be 125 companies, 125 applications. And he said that not only they must have applied before 25th and on or before 25th of September, but between 3:30 and 4:30 p.m. they must bring a demand draft for 1650 crores, which is the 2001 price per spectrum. No, you can't get even 1 crore demand draft in such a short. 2:45 and from between 3:30 and 4:30. It's essentially what you're saying is that 1 hour 45 minutes. In 1 hour 45 minutes, 1650 crores of demand draft. Well, 9 companies had come with demand draft. Some of them are so shameless that they even had a predated demand draft. See? Some, of course, managed with the banks to see that the date is the same as January 10th, even though they got it before. That means there was a leak. But because his two favorite companies, one was a real estate company called Swan, which had no other business except real estate, no experience in telecom, and the other was Unitech, another real estate company, which had no experience in telecom, not a single tower, nothing. Both these companies were already sitting in Raja's room when that press release was made out. And exactly at 3:30, the private secretary of Raja, he took them to the counter and they gave the demand deposit, demand draft. Both were predated 3 days before, and they got the license. And the other 7 also came, they had already got the demand drafts, they also got it. So total 9 companies, Tata's included, Spice is included, and Idea included, so many others. These companies all got their licenses. Now, what all these companies did is, after getting the license, they sold it to foreign companies, the controlling interest, or a substantial interest. Swan sold it to Etisalat. Unitech sold it to Telenor. Tata sold it to Docomo. Like that, all of them sold it to foreigners, except Tata, which sold it for 13 times what they paid. Swan and Tata's could bargain because they said, we'll give you the towers, we'll give you this, and we'll give you that to Docomo. So they charged 13 times. And Swan and Unitech couldn't bargain, so they got 8 times. The actual price was 10 times. So they sold for 8 times. And if they had actually sold it for the market price, you would have got 1,76,000 crores more. What we got ultimately was only 14,000 crores. But we would have got another 1,76,000, a total of 1.90 crores is revenue. But because of this, it happened. Now, there is a rule which says that you cannot, once getting a license, within 3 years sell your license. So they found some technicality. We are not selling the license, but we are diluting share. In effect, they are giving the controlling interest to the foreigner. And you call this as dilution of equity. These are all the usual tricks. And they went through. Now, Home Ministry has a report called an advisory, much before this transaction, that we have information that Etisalat and Telenor, Etisalat bought from Swan and Telenor bought from Unitech, that these 2 companies are trying to enter India at all costs. Because Etisalat is a Pakistan ISI front company. And Telenor is a company which uses liberally Chinese People's Army's produced telecom equipment, which can double for cyber warfare. So if they put towers all over India, with the help of the equipment of Telenor, and India and China have a border conflict or a war or whatever, all our computers can be made to fail. So therefore, the Home Ministry advisory was rejected. Was ignored. Now, I made a big furor before going to the Supreme Court. So Raja then notes in a file note that, why is everybody blaming me? I was asked by Chidambaram to do this. I've got it with me. That's why I'm so sure that Chidambaram Nowadays they don't call it TR jail, they call it Club TR. And there's a lot of sauna there because there's no air conditioning, so you sweat there. Now, they also say that now they are serving masala dosa and idli and all that. I'm just waiting when they start serving pizza also. So now you see, one is that Etisalat. Not only that, the Home Ministry advisory says And by now, Chidambaram has become Home Minister. Home Ministry advisory says that the MD of the Indian branch of Etisalat, Shahid Balwas, is an agent of Dawood Ibrahim.
Yeah, right, sir. We read that.
And everybody in Bombay knows it. It's not a secret. He has 6 corporate jets. And one strip in Palanpur in Gujarat, where there is no monitoring. So he plane takes off for Dubai and comes back to Dubai, no checking. Air Force can knock it down, but Air Force has been told, no, you are not to touch his planes. So look at the amount of the collusion that has taken place, all for money. Your national security has been totally been sabotaged for the sake of money. So Etisalat's Indian company is called Etisalat DB because DB and Etisalat, DB Reality and Etisalat merged, and therefore they. The sum total of the bribe is not 1,76,000 crores. That is the loss of revenue, potential revenue. The bribe amount I have estimated at 60,000 crores. And it was distributed, and this Raja himself told me, between himself. He said, I got the least. So he says he got only 3,000 crores. Only. Considering he was coming 15 years ago on a cycle to the DMK headquarters, 3,000 crores is a lot of money. Then he says that 60% went to Sonia Gandhi. 60% of 60,000 is 36,000 crores. Then he says, so you take 3,000 crores plus 36, 39. What is remaining is 21. Of the 21, 5,000 crores went to Chidambaram. And Karunanidhi got 16,000 crores. You saw that chart, he's got a big family, so you should get it. He's got 3 wives and all that. So anyway, this was the situation. Now you can see with this kind of money how much impact it can create in your economy, in your elections, and so on. I'm glad this time in the Tamil Nadu election, unfortunately there was no alternative ready. We could have had an alternative. I couldn't. It need about 2 years to build an alternative in Tamil Nadu, which is neither ADMK or DMK. But for that you have to devote 2 years sitting in Tamil Nadu. But anyway, that will happen in the future. But the people decided that DMK has to be defeated. I did put up a few candidates, we got lots of votes, but we couldn't win any seat. We got 6,000, 7,000 votes. It's quite a lot for an assembly constituency, standing alone. But the fact is that the people had made up their mind. So I mean, I'm telling you, this despondency should go. People do react. And they took money from Karunanidhi's party and voted against Karunanidhi. And they voted in, almost in a typhoonic way. I remember I was driving from Salem to Coimbatore in the campaign, and we were passing through a purely rural area. And we, of course, because of the LTT reasons, I get a huge security convoy in front of me and back of me. One old lady was waving for me to stop. She's lying all alone. So I made our people stop the car and I asked her. She asked me, in Tamil, she asked me, you're Subramanian Swami? I said, yes. She said, don't let that 2G go. All must be sent to jail, she said. I said, do you know what 2G is? She said, that I don't know, but something terrible has happened. And it's all been done by Tamilians. That is a big shame for us. So that was the spirit. So what happened is, this matter then began. I wrote a letter to the PM saying, please give me sanction to prosecute Raja. Now, there was a question raised about this Jan Lokpal bill. The only thing in that bill which I have considered of any value, for everything else the present laws are sufficient. But there is one thing there, and that is the establishment of an independent prosecution commission, which will not require sanction. Under the present Prevention of Corruption Act, if you want to prosecute a minister, then you have to have the permission of the Prime Minister to do so. Otherwise, if a person is not a minister or a public official, I can just walk into a magistrate's court and say, here's my petition, here are the facts, I want a case registered, and prosecution lodged. Or you can go to a police station and ask an FIR. FIR means only investigation. But if you want prosecution to start, then you can go straight to the court and do it for crimes committed by ordinary people. But if there's a public servant, you need permission to prosecute him. The original idea was that people should not harass public officials, so therefore there must be a substantive case, and therefore there must be some material, and therefore there should be sanction. That's how it originally started. But now it has become where they don't act at all. For example, the law says that the sanction should be given within 3 months. And I wrote to the Prime Minister. For 1.5 years he did not reply. I wrote him 5 letters. Finally I went to the Supreme Court and said the Prime Minister was not doing his duty. So I want the court to direct it, to give me the power, authority to file the case. The court has that power, and I asked for the court. The court said, well, we are also shocked that you have written these letters with so much substance and data. So they issued for the first time in the history of the world that to the Prime Minister, they issued a notice to the Prime Minister, file an affidavit, not make a statement. File an affidavit means he has to swear. That means you don't believe him, that you want him. It is a great thing. Now, if I had made an issue of it afterwards, Manmohan Singh would have to resign. But I said, no, not his fault. People got angry with me. Why are you protecting this man? I only said if he resigns, then Sonia Gandhi will get a chance to choose somebody else only. That's the only difference. No. Is there anyone better than him? No. Prime Minister is a boneless wonder, but he has personally not taken money. All the other congressmen are boneless wonders, but they have taken money. So in what way are matters going to improve? The whole UPA goes, I have no problem. But why only Manmohan Singh? From day one he has been a boneless wonder. Not in this office only, even I knew him as a professor. For some time he was my economic advisor when I was Commerce Minister. He was my economic advisor. I brought him back from Geneva. He had run away from the country saying, I'm disgusted. He had left the country in 1988. And I brought him back in 91. So, therefore, I know him very well. He's personally honest, but that's not good enough. Bhishmacharya was a great noble soul. But he watched Draupadi being dissolved. So, Krishna said, you can't forgive him. Just because he's your teacher, just because he told Arjuna that. So where there's a big moral wrong, he has to be, and therefore in a general war, we can knock off Manmohan Singh, no problem, and prosecute him once UPA is out of power for dereliction of duty. But at this stage, I didn't agree. But as a consequence, I was able to file this complaint, and then CBI was directed to commence investigation, and Raja went. Once Raja went, we found out that the money route for Karanjal TV So she was the moving spirit, Kanimuri. She's also a special friend of Raja. So why should I separate Raja and Kanimuri? So she went. Now Dayanidhi Maran, he went for a different reason. One of the people who got the license was Shiv Shankaran of Aircell, that time of Aircell. But Dayanidhi Maran forced him by denying him everything, even though he had got the license, saying you sell to this man, otherwise you are going to get nothing. All your sunk money is sunk. So the man sold, and he sold it to a Malaysian. Now here's another national security angle. This Malaysian, Ananta Krishnan, is a man who has been laundering LTT money. So now a Malaysian owns Aircell, Etisalat, Telenor, Docomo. So many foreign companies have come. Do you think in this country you find that many foreign companies? In fact, they won't allow. They won't allow Huawei, for example, in this country. Because Huawei is getting equipment from the Chinese army. I'm not against China. I would like good relations with China, but it doesn't mean that I say my house is your house. That's not what we have to do for national security. So this has happened. Now, in the process, when Manmohan Singh came under fire, why did you agree to this low price? Manmohan Singh, to save his skin, or maybe he was a simpleton, he said in his reply that it was decided in 2003 during the NDA rule that the spectrum price will be decided by two ministers, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Telecom, and then they will report to the cabinet. That was 2003. In 2006, I further diluted that by saying that the two ministers will decide and what they decide shall be final. And they don't even have to report to the cabinet. They have to just inform the Prime Minister. This he said in the floor of Parliament, he said it in press conferences, he said it to me. So I began digging through RTI, and lo and behold, it's there in my book. I found a letter of Chidambaram, who was then Finance Minister, to Raja, saying, you and I have to decide the price. Let us meet and then inform the Prime Minister. There is also a letter there is also a file note of Raja saying that Chidambaram suggested that for the larger good of the country, that means him and some others in the Congress party, larger good, the price should be fixed at 2001. Now you tell me, if Raja is in jail on a charge that you charge 1/10 of the price, but he didn't decide alone. He could not decide alone. Chidambaram is also a signatory. I asked for the minutes of those meetings, and they said the minutes have disappeared. But I don't have to worry about that, because I've got the basic letter where Chidambaram has written to Raja that you and I have to decide and inform the PM. I have also the Prime Minister's statement on the floor of Parliament, plus of course press conference, and then to me by way of letter, that these two were to decide. They decided, told me, and there's nothing I could do, because that was the law. That was the policy decision taken, that these two will decide. So in the process today, the process of arresting has started. People say, why haven't you caught this man? Why haven't you caught that man? Why is Tata outside? Why is Birla outside? Let me tell you, we have a judicial strategy. When I go to court, it's not bigger than this room, by the way. Not even that entire, it's right up to that point, this room. And this poor magistrate alone is sitting. I and the CBI counsel are standing. We have got 25 accused already, which includes Shahid Balwaz, it includes Unitech MD, all these people. They're all there. They all come with 5 lawyers. all high-priced lawyers. Even Jetmalani is coming for Kanimori. And they are shouting at this poor judge, you see. He's a tough guy. But he told me one day, the other day, you're going away to Harvard? I said, yes. He said, come back quickly. Because, I can't face these people because I reply usually. And then he said, no fighting here in court and all that. But the work is done. So, if I start now having all the people at one blow, this case will not proceed. It will be tied up in one technicality after another. Even these people are making life very, very difficult. So therefore, the idea is Raja's gone, then Kanimani gone, Dayanidhi will go in 2 weeks' time, August Chidambaram will go. So if Raja is going, then Rani also must go. So Delhi ki Rani and Madras ka Raja. Now all this money is gone, can we get it back? Yes. The work is going on. And all the governments have agreed to cooperate. And the reports have started coming. And I can say one thing. If you have a government which is sincere, then in no time you can get all this money back. But the governments today to date have all been compromised governments. I had written to the government saying, Rahul Gandhi, you see what happened is Rajiv Gandhi and I were very, very good friends. I mean, not that I agreed with him on what he was doing or I participated in all his nefarious activities. But before, I had nothing to do with it. If I had something to do with it, by now my name would have been on the front page. I mean, so many people they're all the time looking at me through a microscope, find out what is wrong, what you can say against this fellow. So, but he was my friend, and I can't have only devtas as friends. You see, there are not many devtas who are walking on this earth. So, as long as you don't participate in their illegal activities, you can be friends with people who you like. So he was a person I liked a lot, and he also was very, very friendly with me. And one day he told me that, this Rahul Gandhi, my son Rahul, you must get him into Harvard. I told him he's failing left, right and center. Harvard won't even touch him. So he said, no, now he has got through Doon School. How he got through Doon School, I don't know. But he did. So he said, he can be admitted. He was in St. Stephen's College on a rifle shooting quota. Plus the fact that he was declared himself as Christian. So he got into St. Stephen's. But then he failed the Hindi exam. And he's representing UP. This is UP Wala should answer this. So Rajiv Gandhi felt that, if he has a foreign environment and a good one, he'll do well. So I said there's only one way I know, but that's a very dangerous way. If you donate $10 million to Harvard, they will give you one seat. But once you're in, you have to compete like everybody else. And if you don't, they'll throw you out. And then your $10 million is also gone. So Hinduja has invested $11 million for the Harvard Medical School. And Rahul came in to Harvard. Lasted 3 months. 3 times he had to go for detoxification to clinics because he was taking a lot of drugs. He was a drug addict. And then he went through this detoxification 3 times, and finally Harvard said, time for you to go. Then he went to some college in Florida called Rollins College. I don't know what college it is. I'm told it was founded by the Catholic Christians of New England. And some of these you can't tell. The other day I got in my mail, want a PhD fast, apply. And so I then read the fine print. It says that we'll give you a certificate for being able to deliver pizza for home delivery. And that is your PhD. I don't know whether it's one of those. because nobody in the Nehru family has yet graduated from college. They're all 5th class pass, 10th class pass, like that. Anyway, that's another issue. As long as you don't tell a false story that I got a degree from the University of Cambridge and it turns out you never went to Cambridge. It doesn't matter if you're not, got a degree. It's not an important thing in public life in that sense, except that state has become now a very modern state, so you need a lot of education to be able to do it. There are some people who pass school and they have got capacity to do very good administrative work, and that is, for example, Jayalalitha. She's only passed school, but our problem is different. That's a Chikala problem. That's another problem altogether. Anyway, coming back to this issue, when he was at Harvard and when he was in Rollins College, his fees was paid from a bank in Cayman Island, Bank of America account. It's a secret account. So I wrote to the government saying that, just go to the university and say we are launching a criminal investigation. Please tell us. Well, give us copies of all the checks that you received from Rahul Gandhi. They don't give it. But the government of the day didn't do it. Rahul Gandhi was arrested in Boston airport by the FBI, carrying $1,60,000 in cash. The American law is that you cannot bring more than 10,000 without declaring. And the punishment is 8 years for every installment of 10,000. Means 1,60,000 means 16 times 8. 144 years. You would have gone with Bernard Madoff, and Bernard Madoff is gone for 150 years. So he would have been with Bernard Madoff. So this is, and then of course the government of Davis, Mr. Vajpayee, he intervened with Condoleezza Rice, and then finally the FBI agreed to register a case and take an undertaking that whenever they want him, he will come and appear. And that's how he came out. So after that, he has never come to the United States. He is not sure what the FBI will do. Because they took 9 hours to agree to the US government in the first place. So that's the one way. There are so many ways, indirect ways you can find out. But I will say finally this, that because the Switzerland under the American pressure and this terrorism, UN resolutions, all that, has now declared there is a category called politically empowered, politically exposed persons. And they say that if anybody is a politically exposed person and the government of that country makes an application for freezing their account, we will freeze it. So, Mubarak's accounts have been frozen. So has Gaddafi's. And later on, for instance, earlier on, Marcos's accounts were all made bare. And it is that in 2001 I discovered that the illustrator, Schweitzer illustrator, which they produced a photograph now that page. It shows Rajiv Gandhi had $2 billion in 1991 and the beneficiary was Sonia Gandhi. So the money has gone to her. We can ask that. Leave alone all this. German government bribed a senior officer of a bank in Liechtenstein, which is a small country in Europe, which is a tax haven, and got the entire bankrolls of all deposits in a CD. And that CD, in Germany, they analyzed by countries, and they found India had 16 names. So they wrote to Indian government saying that, if you want these names, we are ready to give. They wrote to all the governments. There were about, 22 governments they wrote to. 21 governments said, please send us the list of all our nationals. India was the only one which didn't reply. Then we started putting pressure. Then the matter went to the Supreme Court. And then the Prime Minister ordered that Germany should be asked, and Germany sent the 16 names. But even after the Supreme Court has asked, the government is refusing to release those names. So finally, fed up, the Supreme Court just now has appointed, which has never happened in our history,
The Supreme Court itself appointed a special investigating team and appointed a judge, a retired judge called Jeevan Reddy, who was a very strong judge, as the chairman of that, and said that CBI and RAW, everybody will be members of this. And so now that investigation started, the 16 names will come out. And naturally some big names will come out in that. And so there will be many names. Power is a soft target. I'm not worried about. I'm just trying to see whether Sonia Gandhi or Vadra or Ahmad Patel, anyone connected. They're all going to be. Take Hassan Ali. Hassan Ali is a scrap collector. And in his account there was $8 billion. No one knew this. When Chidambaram's finance minister was told that this man got $8 billion, so Chidambaram was greedy for money. He sent word to me, give me $4 billion and I'll let you go free. Hassan Ali didn't agree because he didn't have the money in the sense the account was in his name. But the password was with somebody else. A well-known lady from Italy in New Delhi. So, this is a new technique. You open the account in somebody else's name and ensure through your lawyers that the password is not given to that person. So even if the account name comes out, you say, Sonia Gandhi's name is not here. So what happened is that Chidambaram in anger wrote to the Swiss government saying, these are the account numbers that we have got, kindly freeze them. So the government of Switzerland froze the accounts. Then they realized, naturally went to Sonia Gandhi, she was very upset. And then of course Chidambaram, whatever the reason, whether this was the reason or 2611 was the reason, I can't say, he was shifted. Pranab Mukherjee came and Pranab Mukherjee wrote a letter to Switzerland, which they are still resisting giving me under the RTI, saying that Mr. Chidambaram, my predecessor wrote this letter, but he gave the wrong bank account numbers. Now I give you the correct bank account numbers. Please tell us whether there is any such bank account. Then they were all bogus bank account numbers. And Switzerland wrote back, oh, is that so? All right, we are defreezing the account of Mr. Hassan Ali, and we are telling you that there is no such account in these account numbers. Which they then began parading, no, there is nothing in his account. And within one day, 24 hours, all $8 billion, except 100, I think $5 or $6 million were cleared out from that account. Where it went, nobody knows. Of course, we can find out later. So what I would say is, the short answer is, Government of India issues a ordinance. You can pass it in the Parliament, but ordinance is a fast way of doing it. When Parliament is not in session, you pass it as an ordinance, saying all Indians who have accounts, Indian citizens, who have accounts in these 77 bank accounts, these 77 countries, all their accounts have become nationalized, are now the property of the Government of India, unless the person affected proves that these accounts have been legitimately opened and the money has been legitimately deposited. This you do, you will get all your, whether it is 1.4 trillion or half a trillion, you will get it all in no time. And then of course we will worry about others. All MLAs, all the office bearers, and write to the Switzerland government, these are politically exposed persons. Kindly inform us whether they have accounts in your banks or not. Switzerland is obliged to give you under the new law to give you these things. So there are many ways of doing it. So I would like to say to you that there is a solution to the problem. But let me say, laws are not everything. It's a question that we have to ask. With more liberalization, why is there more corruption? And that is because we've become more and more materialistic. I'm talking about the cure, long-term cure. And with that, I'll complete what I have to say. Taken up a lot of your time, but it's required to be explained. This country had its culture and a moral law called Sanatana Dharma, where money was not everything. This first entered my head, this thought, when I came into Harvard as a student to get my PhD. And my American classmate asked me, how can you have Mahatma Gandhi as your leader? So I said, why? In America he cannot be a leader. In America, if he came and said, you want to be leader, we'll put him in jail for indecent exposure. Because he has only one piece of cloth. So then the thought occurred to me, I asked him, then in your country leaders are all well dressed. He said, yes, they must be nice tie, nice coat, everything must be natty. Then only he can qualify as a leader. Not like this, looking like the riffraff, So the thought occurred to me, and then I said, my God, there is something behind it. So I went and read the debate, the discussion between Rishi Bhrigu and Rishi Bhardwaj. In that, you see, Rishi Bhardwaj says, what is the best way to have a stable society? And Bhrigu says that there are 4 sources of power, and if you decentralize them, that is, more than one is not in the hands of any one person, then you will have a stable society. And those 4 are knowledge, weapons, wealth, and land. You separate this out, then you will have a stable society. And so therefore those who have knowledge cannot have weapons, cannot have wealth, cannot have land. And they will be called Brahmins. Those who will wield the weapon, they will be called Kshatriyas, they will be kings. But they cannot make policy. Policy they will have to go to the Brahmin. And like that. He also made it clear that this has got nothing to do with birth. You can be born of parents of one varna and become of another. For instance, Vedavyasa, his mother was a fisherwoman and he became a Maharishi and wrote the Mahabharata. Then Kalidasa was a hunter. He became the Maharishi and the poets of poets. Vishwamitra's parents were Kshatriyas. He became Rishi of Rishis. Valmiki was considered as a Dalit. No, as a Dalit. At least Dalits claim him. Some people say he was a hunter. But anyway, he was not his parents were not Brahmins. And he wrote the Ramayana. Ravan was a Brahmin. And this Karunanidhi did not know. Because they used to worship Ravan. They used to hold Ravan Leela. Dravida Telecom people used to have names called Ravanan. And all because of their hatred of Brahmins. And it turned out that Ravan was a Brahmin. I once when I went to Mansarovar, on the way there is a big lake, much bigger than Mansarovar. And the Tibetans call it Ravan Haranga. So I said, what does this Ravan Haranga mean? They said, Haranga means lake, but Ravana we don't know, but somebody came from India. But don't touch that water, because they said he will die of some terrible disease. So I took a bottle and filled it. And when I returned, I gave it to Karunanidhi. You are a great admirer of Ravana. So this is this was the structure. Somewhere it got connected with birth. And that's why this whole system has collapsed. It's not good for us. And now we can't reform it. So let's think of slowly, breaking it off. We are, according to DNA, one people. There's no Aryan, Dravidian, all nonsense. Dravida is a geographical term invented by Adi Shankara when he met Mandana Mishra. So, therefore, social status went to the Brahmins because they were men of learning, not because they were born of Brahmin parents. If you are a Brahmin, broke the law as Ravana did, and killed by a Kshatriya, the Brahmins do not say, oh, Rama killed one of our own, therefore we are against Rama. We all worship Rama. Rama, of course, respected the institution, so therefore he did the Brahma Hatya Dosha Pariharam, you see, in Rameshwaram. So,
the money can be made, money should be made, but it cannot give you social status. This globalization has made money everything. I went to IIM to address the students there, and asked them, why did you come here? Why didn't you go to IIT or something else? They said, no, this is the prospects of getting a high salary is maximum here. I said, you have no love for business administration, you have no love for accounting, you have no love for finance theory, and you're only because this salary. They said, yes. Yes, it's true. 20 years ago, people all were running to engineering because that's the best prospects in those days. Now it is this. Before that, it was IAS because the best prospects were there. So, this is the root. Corruption comes out of greed, and greed comes out of materialism. And unless you rebuild your society on the basis of a harmonization between material pursuit and spiritual values, where you promise not to do anything unethical to make money, that money at all costs, no, you don't agree. In the long run, you cannot solve this problem of corruption. Short run, we can change the laws, you can make it very strict, all that. But for the long run, the cure for a society like ours is the return to the old Sanatana Dharma principles. And this applies, these principles apply equally to Muslims and Christians. After all, their ancestors were all Hindus. They didn't come from somewhere else. I mean, the number of people who came from abroad was microscopic. But they are all, and our DNA proves that. I don't need any color of the skin has got to do with pigmentation, it's got nothing to do with race. Michael Jackson proved it by taking out all his pigmentation, he became like a white man, you see. So, the Indians are all, and I'm telling you that you don't go to any extent. I remember when Raj Thackeray used to say that all the Bombay taxiwalas should go away because this is Marathi country and these walas are all UP walas. So I got a hair sample of Raj Thackeray and I got one taxi driver to donate one hair sample and tested it and both were the same. So I made a public announcement that Raj Thackeray actually originally came from UP because the hair sample shows that the DNA is the same. And I told him, if you challenge it, come here on a public platform and give me a hair sample in your presence. I will have the experts with their laboratory, mobile laboratory here, and they will prove it to you that your DNA is the same. All Indians' DNA is the same. So therefore, these differences must go. And consequently, we must now start thinking in these terms of how pursuit of money cannot be an end in itself. Pursuit of money is good, but it's not an end in itself. Then it's only a long-run possibility. And that awareness is coming to our country. I see that. Therefore, I see long-run hope. India is now poised to become a great... We have got everything else going. We have enough resources. We have a young population, which is called a demographic dividend. All that. But we should not get bogged down by a takeover by foreigners. It need not be in the old British India Company way, the East India Company way. It can be now a more subtle way, like the way that lions in a circus have been made slaves, or you instill into goats fear. At seeing a tiger, they all disperse. This kind of mindset which affects, that will happen, and that is why corruption is a problem that can be solved, provided we have this long-term perspective. In the short run, there's no question now, there's so much euphoria in the country that corruption may, ultimately some people may get punished, and there's so much upheaval that there will be movements in the near future. And I think many forces are coming together. Ramdev, Hazare, RSS, Vishuddha Parishad, these are all organizations they are all very large organizations. Jayaprakash Narayan did not hesitate to take RSS help and help of Vishuddha Parishad because he wanted to fight that. Like Winston Churchill took the help of Joseph Stalin. So now it should be a single point issue. We must get rid of corruption from our thing, for which we need a new government. Because a new government can do this problem very quickly. We can do it through courts, but it's a longer process. But if you have a government which is supportive, then we can do it very quickly. That's what I want to say. Thank you. I can see the national security angle right away.
Can you please repeat that question?
The question was, why have you concentrated only on 2G? There are so many other scandals. First of all, I'll say that this one scandal, besides the numbers, there's a national security angle. Telecom is a very sensitive area. And we have got to see that in the other areas, Commonwealth Games, there's no national security there. Whereas there is here. Second is, you see, all this I'm doing is an individual effort. All the opposition is doing is having walkouts in Parliament. They don't do anything. Not one of them comes to court. Many lawyers have become Rajya Sabha members, but they don't do anything. So if you appoint me as the head of the CBI, I will take all of the cases. So that's what I want to say. And
take over your job and carry on.
Well, certainly there are a lot of people associated with me. I can't alone do it. There are people who prepare the papers, people who assist me, people who bring me data, bring me materials, analysis, go through the financial side, all that. I've also now set up a television station called Krishna TV, which you can see details in krishnatv.net, to try and propagate through that to win over people to come in this struggle. And then, of course, it will also be Sanatan Dharma in that. And if any of you NRIs, there's a question about what NRIs can do, you can support it. How to support it, you can read in the website. Otherwise, here, all the papers I've left with Guru Vayupan, who is sitting here, and Lakshmi, Rajya Lakshmi. These people are fully aware of the project and what needs to be done. So these are the ways. It's not. But I tell you one thing: if you look at Indian history, at any moment of time, there's only one person who's done it. The sustainability of what he has done, you need a big team. Like Mahatma Gandhi created a very big team. So his success in the freedom struggle translated into a government which showed that we could govern ourselves.
Now, the people are not coming, and how can we tell the people, make them understand to participate in the political process to
No, you see, even Jayaprakash Narayan, he started off non-politically.
Yeah.
But then as elections got closer, he got associated with parties. Mahatma Gandhi was not a member of Congress, but he was associated with the party. I can tell you that when we come closer to the election, Baba Ramdev and Hazare and non-political organizations like RSS, Mission President, they all come together in one place.
But people are not...
No, that is your opinion about people. Well, I personally believe that if the people are convinced that this is a corrupt government, is dangerous for the country, they will vote out whoever they get, and that's what happened in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, what happened in